Hello everyone, welcome to Create Context Criterion 40. My name is Joe, and every week we look at a different film in Criterion's 40th anniversary Blu-ray collection. This week we are looking at the film Repo Man. Finally, after looking at all of these foreign black and white films, these Italian movies with subtitles, jazz movies, finally, we get a 1980s punk rock flick. Alex Cox's 1984 Repo Man is a movie about space aliens, car chases, and punk rock music. Repo Man is in many ways the quintessential punk rock film. It features tons of punk artists from that day. It's got a main theme written and performed by Iggy Pop. It was made on this parsley budget of $1.5 million, and it cares so little what major audiences think of this film. This punk rock attitude that Repo Man does, it mostly works in the film's favor. The aesthetic of the movie feels entirely DIY, and the characters are all oozing with attitude and grit. This all makes the film a joy to watch over and over again, even if the plotting in third act can be a little tough to follow at times. Repo Man is in many ways a film of its time. It was released in 1984 at the height of the Reagan administration. It came out in a definitively Republican America. While the American economy was booming for the wealthiest Americans, others felt left behind by Reagan's hard stance on education and the war on drugs. This resulted in a divided America, with yuppies and punks taking to different sides of the street, and the dissension against Reagan taking up much less space in pop culture than Reagan's supporters. The yuppies were everywhere, and the punks were relegated to underground clubs. This film centers on a young, jobless high school dropout, the central villain in Reagan's scare tactics campaign. Emilio Estevez plays Otto, the rebellious teen who eventually picks up a job as a car repo man. A job that feels closer to a reverse Robin Hood than a noble 9-to-5. Otto jacks cars from owners overdue on their bills to propel capitalism and line his pockets in the process. For how in-your-face Repo Man is, there are a lot of subtleties that just go left unsaid. The ethics of working as a repo man are mentioned briefly by Otto before being swiftly abandoned once the commission rate is explained to him. Otto, like everyone else, is just trying to make a living, and if that living comes at the cost of a few delinquent car owners, so be it. Film does an odd trick, though, by portraying most of the jack cars as these high-end vehicles belonging to really wealthy individuals. This reinforces the film's major themes of consumerism and greed. In this alternate version of Los Angeles, people are buying cars they can't afford to keep up appearances with neighbors they don't like. Consumerism here is a prop, a house of cards holding up an unstable economy, and while Repo Man presents an alternate version of Los Angeles, feels pretty real to the one we live in today. Several scenes reinforce this theme of greed and consumerism, most notably when Otto visits his parents and asks them for a little bit of money they had promised to him earlier in his life. His parents, when he walks in, they're enthralled by this televangelist. They're barely able to look away from the screen, only to inform him that he cannot have this promised money. It's all been sent to this TV preacher in order to further his ministry. It's another very on-the-nose parallel to our world and the world of the 1980s. Those with the least amount of money get swindled by grifters to give away all of it to those who have plenty. But other examples, like the millionaire behind on his car payment, are also prevalent throughout the film. Outside of the vagrant working of capital consumerism, there is another narrative happening in Repo Man. A group of extraterrestrial beings residing in the trunk of a Chevy Malibu. This Malibu also comes up for repo with a $20,000 bounty, an astonishing figure that creates a violent war to obtain the repo. This plot thread culminates in a series of story beats that wrap up as soon as they begin. It's here where you can really see the budget limitations and the DIY nature of the film. It starts to kind of show its cracks. Everything happens so fast and is treated with just little gravitas. There's a shootout in a convenience store. Otto's captured and tortured by a government agent with a metal hand. The Malibu gets stolen multiple times by various parties, and it all happens so fast that it's impossible to keep straight during your initial viewing. But Repo Man cares a lot more about its themes than it does its plot, and ultimately, I think that works in the film's favor. Repo Man is Alex Cox's first movie, and it's certainly his most well-regarded. After this, he made a biographical film about Sex Pistols star Sid Vicious and his girlfriend, Nancy Spungen, that performed poorly but found a cult audience afterwards. He then followed that movie up with Walker, a colossal box office bomb, grossing only $300,000 on a budget of $6 million. After this, Alex was relegated to independent and micro-budget films, an area that he fit into rather perfectly. The success of Repo Man shouldn't be viewed as an outlier, but rather Repo Man should be looked at as a thesis for Cox's entire library of work. This film is about how greed is bad, how consumerism corrupts everyone it touches, and it's delivered with such sincerity and punk rock attitude that it's almost impossible to think that the creator of this would go on to have a huge, successful Hollywood career. Alex Cox released a masterpiece because he made it on his own terms. Anything bigger or flashier would miss the point. Repo Man is an amalgamation of genres and themes rolled into a DIY package. The film may be remembered for its humor, which there's plenty of, its aesthetic, which is grimy and punk, and its capitalism themes, which are everywhere in the film, but it should also be remembered as a love letter to DIY. This small little project made by a first-time director on a parsley budget reached an underserved niche in pop culture. This isn't anything novel now. There's a podcast, YouTube channel, or blog for every small underground niche thing you can think of. But it wasn't always that way. In the 80s, punk was relegated to zines and underground clubs, but Alex Cox was able to find that audience and create a masterpiece in the process. It's a lot easier to reach a niche audience now, but Alex Cox did it the hard way. And by doing so, he made it just a little more mainstream and made a lasting impression on cinema with his punk rock alien car chase movie. Thank you guys so much for watching the Criterion 40. We will be back on Friday with another weekly movie minute, and I can't wait to see you guys then. The Criterion 40 is a Create Context podcast. Head over to createcontext.com for more film, reviews, and analysis. Our theme song is Hindsight by Shiloh, provided by the Riot Games Creator Safe playlist. We drop new episodes every Tuesday at 8 a.m.